Hello, lovers and nemesis. Today is a very special video. As you can see by our change of costume and scenery, we are going to be talking about ethereal goth bands from Latin America. Now, what is ethereal goth? Ethereal goth, also sometimes referred to as ethereal wave, is a subgenre known for its otherworldly feelings and heavy use of effects, often seen as an outgrowth not only of goth but also the shoegaze and dream pop movements, sometimes combining with genres such as trip hop and neoclassical, while the main vocals usually follow a more modern format with either the trip hop girly or reverbed out shoegaze influence, although sometimes there is backing or chorus vocals that include operatics or chanting, sometimes using dead languages, as well as at least a few instrumental pieces. Though the genre that came to be known as ethereal goth technically began in the 1980s, it is heavily associated with the 1990s and early 2000s. Popular bands associated include Cocteau Twins, Trance to the Sun, Miranda Sex Garden, Clairvoyant, and Dead Can Dance. Nearly all goth music has psychedelic rock as an influence, and hippies are a subcultural influence, but ethereal goth really leans into this. Lyrics often include references to nature, dreams, paganism, folklore, or even mystic branches of mainstream modern religions, such as Gnostic Christianity, to symbolically reference the human experience. Though it is not a requirement, the majority of ethereal goth bands have a female lead singer, and lyrics frequently touch on feminine archetypes. Indeed, only one of the bands I will be discussing features a male singer. Aesthetically and subculturally, ethereal goth is heavily associated with the romantic goth movement, and lyrics do frequently touch on romantic relationships or even sex, but in the most mystical way possible, even if in a negative sense. With the heavy 1980s nostalgia in goth music of the previous decade, it is no surprise that there has been a heavy 1990s resurgence in the recent decade, initially evident in aesthetics with the crushed velvet, moons and stars, and wavy hair left to flow, what the kids these days refer to as whimsy goth. This resurgence is not only purely aesthetic, as we have seen a resurgence in both ethereal goth music as well as 1990s style gothic rock, though that is a subject for another video. Some of you may recall my video from a few years back on goth gaze bands from Latin America, and with ethereal goth having heavy shoegaze leanings and influences, there may be some question as to how these genres are even different. Indeed, there are a few repeat bands, but mostly different ones, because goth gaze is more of a fusion genre, whereas ethereal goth is its own subgenre that started while after the birth of both goth and shoegaze, before the goth gaze fusion genre became its own thing. There are some similarities, but the vibes are mostly different. Back to this video, some of these bands began during the heyday of the ethereal goth, while others came a bit later. Most of these bands predated the recent resurgence, especially with a few being part of the original wave. But with this resurgence, I think that there will be plenty of people wanting to know of even more bands to play in the background as they burn incense and read vampire books and tarot cards on their night sky themed velvet duvets. I will be discussing 9 bands plus one honorary mention, geographically from south to north. Before I get much further, please remember to like, leave a comment, and subscribe for more information related to goth music of all subgenres from throughout Latin America. We start with Luna in Kylo, which formed in Santiago, Chile in 1993 by vocalist Alejandra Araya and guitarist Daniel Davila. Some of you may remember this band from my video about Chilean goth bands in general. They are so very mystical that their name means moon in the sky in Latin, a dead language, highlighting the eerie reverb and distortion-laden instrumentals are our vibrato-heavy female vocals on topics such as life, death, sleep, dreams, consciousness, emotions, love, and restlessness. In typical ethereal form, they get these points across with references to Greek mythology, the afterlife, the moon, and insects. Are you really even a real ethereal goth band if your meanings aren't presented through metaphors about nature and spirituality? This band had a bit more of a rocking, grunge even pivot in the mid-2000s. There were some instrumental tracks on this band's early releases, and they did eventually do a soundtrack to a movie directed by the guitarist. Up next is Bizantina, which was formed in Santiago, Chile in 2015 by Laia Godoy and Jose Ramarino. This is a more electronic-driven band with strong trip-hop leanings. This band focuses heavily on feelings of being an outsider and also makes points with references to sleep and animals, including moths, not the last band on this list to do so. Most of their lyrics are in English, a big exception being their 2023 single Analocos, which was featured in the film of the same name. Next up on the map is Buenos Aires, Argentina, with Perlas tus ojos, meaning pearls of your eyes, because ethereal goths love both jewels and eyes. This band was formed in 2009. Their songs give us haunting lyrics that largely talk about love and heartbreak, but because we are ethereal goths, there are references to things like smoke and dead flowers. Aside from that reverby guitar, the bass is a lot more prominent than in a lot of other ethereal bands, which, as a bassist myself, I personally appreciate. Our next band is also from Buenos Aires, Argentina, Lágrimas de Emilia, meaning Emilia's tears. Whether Emilia was just the name that they liked, or is a super obvious reference to someone specific that I am just not getting, I do not know. At this point in time, they have only released 3 original songs, plus a cover of Plain Song by The Cure, which is unsurprising considering that The Cure, especially during that era, were both part goth and proto-shoegaze, 2 of the parents of ethereal goth. I hope that we hear some more out of them soon. Because of what we have heard from them so far, it has been quite promising, especially in the wake of the ethereal goth revival. Next, we move on to Sao Paulo, Brazil, with Scarlet Leaves, whose 2015 album, Deep Sad Frustration, I reviewed a few years ago. The lineup has had some shakeups over the years, but the 2 consistent members have been vocalist Claudia Algisi and multi-instrumentalist Audrey House. Their largely electronic sounds evoke mystery, nature, and world mythologies. The lyrics are primarily in English, but they like to lean into the shoegaze influence with vocals so reverbed that they are not easily understood in any language. Next is another Brazilian band, though from Suzano instead of Sao Paulo, that being in Auroram, which means in the dawn in Latin, a language we also get some of in the songs. formed in 2002 by Ricardo Santos and Asteria. Nice Greek mythology reference there. This act has a heavy neoclassical and world music influence that would appeal to fans of Dead Can Dance or The Devil in the Universe. They have some instrumental tracks, but all are influenced by classic literature, emotions, nature, and of course, classical mythology. Our next band is an international team-up between Brazil and Germany, Wintry. This duo was formed in 2009 by Anna Goldacker and Alex Twin. Their lyrics are in both English and German, making this quite the multilingual video, while later work by this band went in a more conventional, synth-pop-driven darkwave direction. Their earlier work was quite ethereal, with the airy feel, neoclassical instrumentation, and reality-defying lyrics. Our next stop on the map is Costa Rica, with a band that I've talked about a few times before, Red Apple Cult. This band also self-describes as ambient and occult pop. The sounds give us gothic power ballads, and the lyrics, in both English and Spanish, focus on love and loss through metaphors referencing Greek mythology, Gnostic Christianity, fire, and insects, including moths, because of course, still they haunt me phantom-wise.
They saw my rotten face under our garden. Those tears, my grave with roses.
Our final, official act on this list is the only one with male vocals. Hailing from Jalisco, Mexico, we have Condemnadas, which is, of course, Latin for condemned. We really are taking the Latin part of Latin America quite literally in this episode with 3 bands with Latin names. This solo act was the musician's outlet during a particularly emotionally difficult time in his life. The lyrics, all in English, describe utter emotional devastation with metaphors mentioning things like snow, though there are quite a few instrumental pieces. The neoclassical instrumentation, with its electronic versions of pipe organs, a string section, and harpsichords, remind me of a more minimalistic Saporiternus. The musician behind this act released all of the music as free downloads on Bandcamp.
It was you killing me. It was you killing me.
Before I finish this out, I would like to make an honorary mention to Santa Sabina. Formed in Mexico City in 1989, this band was more 1990s jazz rock than anything else, but the artful, experimental, and often dark sounds and imagery, especially around lead singer Rita Guerrero, led them to being enjoyed by many goths, and their progressive and mystical style, not to mention whole heyday in the 90s, has led them to being cited as an inspiration to some ethereal goths. They even had a song inspired by Interview with the Vampire. While I would not describe them as goth in the strictest sense, their influence is palpable. I would recommend looking up videos of their performances, if only because Rita, que en paz descanse, was a fantastic performer and also very fashionable.
Camino sin rumbo, te veo llegando, otro destino.
I hope you all enjoyed the trip into the ether with this one. YouTube does not allow a certain number of links in the description, so I have a link to the page, blog connected to this channel if you wish to listen to any of the musicians or follow them on social media, which I highly recommend. Let me know who your favorite ethereal goth band is, whether or not I mentioned them in this video. Let me know your thoughts on the whole ethereal and romantic goth revival that has been going on musically and aesthetically in the scene lately. Do you think it will be as long-lasting and influential as the 1980s style new wave inspired sounds and imagery that we saw a lot of goth bands in the 2010s? Until next time, may the moths resist the flames so they may carry you to the dreamland of Persephone's garden.